let me ask you a serious question. What's really killing your deals this year? Now, if you said competitors, you're dead wrong. According to research from CEB, a Gartner company, 40 to 60% of B2B deals aren't lost to competitors at all. They're lost to no decision. That's right. Your prospect just decides to do nothing. And here's why this happens. It's something called omission bias. Your buyers feel safer doing nothing than making a decision they might regret. Think about it. If they choose to do nothing, nobody blames them. But if they choose a solution that fails, they get all the blame. This is why your prospects nod along in your meetings, they seem excited about your solution, and then they ghost you. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on 15 specific strategies that help you overcome the no decision problem forever. Now, if you don't know who I am, I'm Marcus Chan, former #1 sales director at Cintas, where I led a 110-person sales org to profitably deliver 190 million TCV each year. Now, prior to this, I was promoted 12 different times, starting from a very entry-level sales role, all the way up to running a large sales org, and on the way, hit #1 in every single role. Now I'm a sales trainer and coach to the fastest growing companies and reps in the world. And in these strategies I'm going to cover today, I talked to over 700 clients who collectively had documented over 1,000 wins using our systems. You'll learn how to systematically eliminate risk for your buyers while increasing their upside, ultimately leading to them taking action and signing your DocuSigns with overwhelming urgency. Let's dive in. So strategy #1, de-risk the deal. Here's the reality. For every decision that you make or your prospects make, there's always going to be a risk in every decision that you actually make. So for instance, if you're trying out a new restaurant personally, you know there's a potential risk that it may not be good. You may not like the food. And when you apply to a B2B sales process, it is no different. There's risk in every single decision. So you want to make sure you're showing your prospect, your buyer, and all the stakeholders how you can de-risk the deal. So I'm going to show you 5 really simple steps you can apply to help de-risk your deal, make your solution the obvious choice. First piece is setting clear expectations. And it seems overly simple, but here's the reality. Most salespeople will talk a big game about how incredible their solution is, the promise of a crazy ROI. And reality is, most of the time, even if you use their numbers, they're not going to believe those big claims. That's just reality. Because in everyone's own personal lives, they've been overpromised something and didn't actually deliver. So what can you do instead is you just simply set clear expectations. And I learned this strategy from a guy, Nate Nasrallah, a couple years back as part of his business case. But what he would do is not just say the best case scenario, he would offer a base case. So that's okay, if at the very minimum you do this, you'll probably see this level of benefit, right? So it's much lower. Then there was a decent case, so it's better than that, then a best case. And when you frame it this, instead of saying, hey, this is an incredible return you're going to get, you say, hey, listen, if you implement XYZ solution, let's just say worst case scenario, you get a 2% increase. That 2% increase will lead to this. Or on a decent case, we get a 10% increase. And on a best case, we get a 25% increase. But let's manage expectations, and we see at the minimum, you'll see this right here. When you do that from the get-go, that's really powerful because this helps the buyer realize you're not trying to oversell them and you're trying to set right expectations. And when you think about it this way, even from a longevity perspective, once this deal actually goes in, this is setting the right expectation for the future as well. Because if you exceed that, they are far happier with you and they're more likely to stay longer. And also on top of that, it's way easier for upsells. So the first step is just setting clear expectations from the very get-go. The second part of this strategy is offering some sort of downside protection. So everybody's worried about potentially investing into something, changing vendors and whatever, and then suddenly they're completely stuck. Think about what you potentially could offer to reduce their risk. This could be a guarantee, this can be a cancellation policy. There's many ways to do this. So for instance, even on my own personal B2C offer where we sell to individuals who want to get coaching for themselves, most of them have never invested large amounts of money to increase their sales skills. So part of it, we offer them a risk-free guarantee in which if they do not double their investment at the very minimum, we'll keep working with them until they do. Because they know it's a one-year coaching program, they know if they don't double their investment, that's for like their lowest downside. They can stay for as long as they want. That is incredible for a lot of them because this way they could fully maximize it, right? And it just helps them reduce their actual risk. Now, the third step you can also incorporate to this overall strategy of de-risking the deal is showing a really clear implementation timeline with really clear milestones once they sign on the dotted line. We all know once you sign something, that doesn't mean the buyer's remorse is completely gone. At that point, they might be like, ooh, they might still have a little bit of concern and worry still even after they sign. So what you can do to help de-risk it for them is really show them a clear path. So literally after they sign, what's going to happen the first 1 week, 2 weeks, the first 30, 60, 90 days, a really clear implementation path with KPIs, with clear owners, so they know, this is a journey for success. And when they see you have a blueprint that's repeatable, that's really powerful. So think about this. If you're offering a major software transformation, do you have a clear step-by-step blueprint you're showing as part of your process so they know, okay, this is not their first rodeo. They know exactly how to make this work for us. This is really key, especially if, let's just say if you're a smaller company or a startup who's trying to sell into the enterprise space, it is very risky for many of them to make a switch to a smaller company that potentially may not have the enterprise function completely vetted out or the deliverable to fulfill it. So having that clear implementation plan shows them you thought this through, you're planning ahead, you have contingencies in place, which again reduces their risk of it going sideways. Now, on top of that, what you could do as well, this can actually lead to a potential an upsell or increasing the actual LTV, is you can also bolt on professional services to make sure it gets done right. And this is absolutely critical because then this way you know for sure that you're not going to be left alone. And many companies are willing to pay extra for that peace of mind. For instance, if you take a look at Wayfair, they sell a lot of furniture. This could be like patio furniture for your home, but they sell desks, they sell all types of stuff. You could just go and you could just buy whatever furniture you can get. They're going to ship it to your house, but then you yourself are responsible for putting it all together. And that can be overwhelming for some people. Now, what they do as well is they also offer a professional service component where you can pay extra and someone will come to your house and put it together for you. So for those who don't want to put together, they're worried about having to deal with that or trying to find someone to help them with it, that could be that peace of mind for them. They pay a couple extra $100 and boom, not only are they going to have a very high likelihood of getting exactly what they want, but also it'll be completely done for them so they don't have to worry. There's no risk for them. And that's, again, really powerful. The fourth step you can also incorporate as part of de-risking the deal is getting really creative with the contract. Now, I wouldn't necessarily go to this every single time, but let's just say, for example, if normally your organization really wants you to sell 2 to 3 year agreements, you could also sell a little bit shorter term and increase the pricing as part of it this way to help them see it as a de-risk opportunity. So for instance, I used to sell 5-year contracts. That was quite normal. And actually, I would work really hard to actually sell 7 years and 10 years because it was far more lucrative for me personally as a sales professional, but also it was really better for them, the prospect as well, because now they have a guaranteed level of service and it's also better for our business as well. So there's like a triple win across the board. However, there were times that literally prospects would see that longer term as risky. Right? Because I knew that, I would always go higher for the term and then I would negotiate with them. And let's just say, for example, in some situations, we got down to a 36-month term. I wouldn't just willingly give it to them. I would just increase the price point. And really for them, they would happily pay that because yes, they'll pay more, but now they feel better because they have what they perceive to be lesser risk in a 36-month term. So you can get really creative with these type of things, right? Or another thing you potentially do as well is if you don't already have the guarantees written into your agreements, building that in or working your legal team. Again, these type of things potentially can help you reduce their perceived risk and actually move forward with you. And then the fifth step, which is also very powerful as well, is starting small and then actually expanding. Now, what I'm not saying is you go and sell the smallest possible amount and then you hope that you can expand it, right? It's being really strategic in your overall sales process, meaning when you go into the discovery phase in the process, you do the full deep dive, you meet with multiple stakeholders, maybe multiple departments depending on what you sell, and you understand the full scope and magnitude of this huge problem that they're having. And you have discussed overall solutions, how it could be this incredible, let's call it a 7-figure opportunity for you and for them, right? That potentially can be perceived as very risky. I'm not saying you don't go for that, but if they perceive the risk to be too much, it's also very powerful to say, hey, listen, this is what I recommend. Let's start off with a smaller engagement at, say, 50K, prove ourselves out, and then we can expand out to the rest of the remaining 7-figure opportunity. And this is really powerful. Even for my own business, we'll do something very similar depending on the business that we're working with. For instance, sometimes instead of going into a full 50 to a 250K engagement, it may start off with maybe like a 5-figure audit first, which is very low risk for them. We go in, we do a full diagnosis of every part of their business from the sales process perspective, and then we uncover all the core gaps. Then we can make a recommendation on how we want to implement a training plan to solve those gaps, right? And for some company, that's lower risk for them. Or potentially, we'll start out with perhaps, let's say, a smaller team and expect a large team. So for instance, organization right now, they have 50 AEs. However, we're actually first starting with a smaller subset of 15 reps, and we're going to work a 90-day program with them first. And of course, assuming it goes really well and they're happy with everything, then we'll expand to everything else. But again, I'm not just leading and just trying to sell the smaller component. I'm making sure we can cover the full scope of the magnitude of the problem, showcasing the overall key solution, and then say, hey, listen, to make sure we help remove your risk to feel really good, is we start small and then we expand from there. And this again is really powerful because we're reducing their risk for them. They get the opportunity to show up. And obviously, since we're going to deliver on our side, we know we're going to be able to expand the opportunity. If you feel good about your company as well, being able to do the same thing, that's a great strategy. Start small and expand from there. Okay, those are 5 key steps that you can leverage within de-risking the deal. Next, strategy number 2, reframing the cost of inaction. Now, most people focus on the benefits of our solution, how incredible it is, which, yes, you want to do that, but it's a big mistake to only focus on that. Before you go into your solution, you need to help them quantify the cost of inaction. What does it cost them that problem continues to exist? And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull some questions right from my book, section 6, which is how to make your discovery calls powerful, which is an 8-part framework. So we'll pull exact questions right from the section right here, because this is stuff you want to be uncovering in your discovery. And it's asking questions, hey, because of problem X, how does that impact you directly? How about your team? How about your VP? How about CXO? What are the ripple effects problem X is having on the business? What will happen if a year goes by and you're still running into problem X? What's driving you to solve this now versus later? Ultimately, you want your stakeholders to get really clear on what I call the big 3 for COI. That's the direct costs, the indirect costs, and the opportunity costs. And these costs are all a result of not taking action. For instance, when we sell sales training coaching, if reps are missing their number, the direct cost is literally them missing their number. And that's really easy to quantify. Let's just say, for example, they have a $15 million target and the team hits $10 million. It's cost them $5 million to miss their target. But not only that, there's other indirect costs and opportunity costs as a result, because the direct costs are, yes, it's $5 million, but there's also the indirect costs of, hey, with that $5 million of extra revenue, let's just say, for instance, if margins are 10%, that's like an extra $1 million of bottom line. What could they have done with that income? Could they invest into more staff, into the product, hire more engineers? Those are indirect costs as part of it. Now, on top of that, if I really want to dive even deeper, we can go deeper into what are the indirect costs of having an inefficient team. When you're paying an underperforming team, your sales efficiency ratio is going to be completely jacked up. So the reality is, for every dollar you spend on your team, you want to generate at least $1, if not more, of new business revenue. And then, of course, the third piece is the opportunity cost. For instance, in my situation, what could the team really achieve? Let's say, for example, the target is 15 million, but reality is that they're actually truly optimized with high win rates, increased ACV, get them to, say, 20 million and beyond. Now, suddenly, that opportunity cost is far greater. I'll give you a really simple example. We were working with a sales org, and they realized they had a 25% win rate when the deal was about 10K or below. So they were really good in more of the transactional kind of SMB opportunities. But when they took a look at the bigger opportunities, these are deals that were at least 100K, 150, 200K plus, they had maybe a 5% win rate, meaning they were literally 5 times worse than minimum with these enterprise opportunities. And the sales VP realized this, and he reached out to me. So we started having a conversation. We realized there was a pretty big deficit. That's a huge deficit, which had a huge direct cost, literally cost them millions of dollars, huge opportunity costs as a result as well. So we started working with their team to help eliminate and solve this problem. But not only did we get that enterprise win rate up to 25%, we also increased the ACV, the deal size, from what they had before, which was about 100K for enterprise deals, if they even won them, to over $250,000. So their upside opportunity costs end up being way more. So now they're absolutely freaking crushing it, right? What they realized once we fully look at the opportunity costs, before they're literally millions of dollars every single quarter to generate a few extra millions of dollars now because we actually increase the win rates, their overall deal size. So we're able to help solve and eliminate their direct, indirect, and also their opportunity costs. In fact, right now, they're looking to raise an extra $10 million. So it's pretty cool to see their success. If they had not gotten to this point, they would not be looking to raise money at all because they would not be able to show that they are the business they want to actually be. So this is a key strategy. So make sure as part of your process, you are uncovering this with them and they're verbalizing to you those actual costs because this helps drive urgency in action. Strategy number 3, create a team of champions. I've made the mistake before where I have one person which I'm really close with and they are the ultimate champion. They have power, they have influence, they have credibility, PIC as they call it, right? But then something happens. That guy or gal suddenly retires or goes to a different company and what happens? Boom, the deal basically dies overnight and now have to restart over with the new stakeholder and other people within the organization. That's really painful. So what you can do as part of just helping make sure you get deals to move forward is you want to map out, identify who all the key stakeholders are. To be very specific, you want to uncover who the economic buyer is. This is the only person that can say yes, even if everyone else says no, and they can say no when everyone else says yes. They have the ultimate influence in the deal. It's not always going to be the CFO, but it's a person that can make the deal happen or not happen with highest level influence. You have the technical buyer. They can't say yes to you, but they can say no. Now, this is a tricky one because a lot of technical buyers might even sign the agreement, but sometimes they have to roll by someone else. Maybe they have to talk to a board of directors. Maybe they talk to CXO. Usually the end user, the people using your product, service, software on a consistent daily basis. And amongst them, there's almost always going to be locker room leaders, people who have a lot of influence within them that people kind of trust and we need to get buy-in from. And then we have potentially a coach or advisor, which is someone who might be outside the process, but they still have PIC as part of it and they can really influence it. And reality is you want to identify and map out these people. And by the way, it's not just 4 people, potentially 5, 6, 7 or more, depending on what you sell, the deal size, complexity, the opportunity. But what's interesting is if you actually map them all out and then you focus on helping uncover what's the win for every single stakeholder. If they were to partner with you, what would be the win? What would be the problem you'd be solving for them? And when you can do that, you can build champions throughout the whole process. This helps set you up to win because this way helps you guide the process forward and you have multiple people going to bat for you with different personalities, which can really help too. And this really starts at the very beginning of the sales process. Once you have that very first meeting, your goal should be to try to wrap your hands around and meet all the stakeholders to help gain collective buy-in, which is going to help you move the deal forward. Because reality is when you have multiple people who are collectively bought into you, this then increases the likelihood of actually move forward because they all feel good, which helps decrease their risk as well. If you think about this, if you've been in an interview process, it's quite common you'll meet with 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, or maybe 6 people potentially in an interview process. And the reason they're having multiple people talk to you is this helps them de-risk the decision of hiring the right person. That's all it really is. In the buying situation, it's no different. So more people you can get involved, the more bought in each of them are, the more they identify their wins to work with you, this decreases their perceived risk, actually move forward. On top of that, it reduces your risk in the deal too, because if someone retires or something goes away, you have other players in the game that can help you move the game forward. Strategy number 4, radical candor. One of the biggest mistakes I made early on was I only want to talk about the best things about my company, about myself, about everything. And reality is people are smart and people know nobody and no company and no product is perfect. That's just reality. Everybody knows that. When you only talk about the best things, people will perceive that to be risky. They're like, that's weird. Why are you saying all these great things? And I'll give you a really simple example. My wife and I, we have friends who are single, they're dating, and they're dating someone new, and all they can talk about is all the amazing things about this person they're dating, right? It sounds amazing, but the reality is, my question is always, hey, what are the pink flags? And if they can't identify any pink flags, to me, that's a big red flag because nobody is perfect. And it's a silly example, but this applies also in a sales situation too. When you only have the best things about what you do, what you have to offer, they trust you less. And you are perceived to be risky versus if you are radically transparent with them and you are openly sharing things that they're probably on their mind, that's going to help them reduce that risk in their mind. They'll trust you more. In my sales training business, when I talk to companies, I like to be very transparent. Hey, there is no magic pill. It's not like you wire my team and I the money and suddenly overnight your team are absolutely rock stars. Here's what I'm gonna need from you. I need your team to show up. They have to try to do these things. And on top of that, we want to make sure even outside of the training sessions, you're coaching and guide them as well and making sure they're sticking to it and building those right habits. And only when we all work together, you, me, the sales VP, and your enablement team and your reps will consistently work together, we're gonna see incredible results. It's not gonna happen after day one. It's gonna be a progression over time because we're changing behaviors. And that's what we're focusing on. We want to focus on long-term change, not just immediate change right now. And it's amazing when I tell them that, they're like, I really appreciate that transparency. I'm like, yeah, 100%, because for them to come in, have the wrong expectation doesn't help anybody, first off, but also it's not real. That's just not real. So you want to be radically transparent with them, and that really helps build that transparency. You can apply this same principle to really every part of the process. It's not just in talking about yourself as well. It's also in how you communicate and how you guide the prospect. Because the reality is a lot of prospects don't know how to buy. I'm sure it's happened to you, it's happened to me, which is you have great discovery, a great demo, and then before you know it, 6 months goes by, and in that 6 months, you're still interacting with them, but they're asking for different demos, more information. You have like nonstop meetings, showing the same stuff over and over. They ask for different things. Send me this use case, send me more references, send me this, send me that. They're what I call see-mores. They want to see more of this, see more of that. And the deal is actually not moving forward. I used to fall for this early on. I'm like, okay, sure, let's just do it, right? Let's do a trial. Hey, send me more information. Sure, here's all this information. Hey, can you send me more references? Here's more references. And I'll keep sending stuff, but what I found out was the more information I was giving them, they actually were less likely to make a decision, right? And they're just tire kickers, if you will. Versus when I realized this was going to be a case, I started becoming very transparent. For instance, a couple of months back, I was engaging with a potential prospect, and I was sitting down with a couple of co-founders, and I could tell they felt a little bit of risk in the deal, and they had asked for many meetings, multiple things, and said, listen, like, we want to work with you, but we want to try you out. Can you come to like a coaching session with our team for one session? We don't want to pay for it, and we just want to make sure the team engages with you, and then maybe we can potentially move forward and choose a plan from there. And I said, let's pump the brakes first. Like, what's the real root issue? And the real root issue, as I dug into it, really was that because this team was actually in a different country, they're a little bit worried if their team would be able to adapt to, for lack of a better term, an American style. That's a very fair point. And what they wanted was basically do a free coaching session with their team. And the challenge on top of that was we hadn't even decided on a clear training plan they want to go with, and they hadn't even agreed to a dollar amount. And what I didn't want to do was go and do this thing, even if it's unpaid, even do it for an hour, that show them got the skills. And then after that, we go over a plan and pricing is too high or something like that, and they don't make a decision, which is be a waste of really their time, my time, everyone else, which sucks. No one wants to do that. What I did instead was I dug deeper to uncover really the core root issue. And then I said, hey, listen, this is why I recommend, first off, before we do any of that, you two founders and myself, we have to get 100% on which training plan are we going to go with and what's going to be the price point that we feel really comfortable investing, right? Because what we don't want to do is do this training session. And again, you're just not good with the overall package, right? So instead of just me agreeing to it, the next step was we set a call up and we just had a plan that, hey, let's decide, we're going to pick a plan, make sure we're over 100% good. Then we're going to do training with the team. And only if they're 100% certain that the team feels really good, then we'll move forward with said plan. And what's interesting was this gave them a clear plan of what to do next versus let's do a little bit of this, let's do a little bit of that, and just go back and forth. So again, my point is don't be afraid to have a radical candor in your conversation at any part of the process and help guide them to how to actually buy. You'll save yourself a lot of time. You'll save them a lot of time as well. Strategy number 5, sell against buyer's remorse proactively. So it ties into a little bit what I mentioned before about having a clear implementation plan. But the reality is once someone signs, once they pay, whatever, there's always a little bit of a worry about, hey, what's going to happen next? Is this going to be exactly what was promised to me? So this is where you want to show as part of your process what's going to happen exactly. Help minimize that potential concern they might have. So this way they're not worried, what's going to happen next? What are you going to do? Blah, blah, blah. Make it really clear, literally after you sign, this is what happens next, this is what you do, this is the means we're going to have, and show them a very clear implementation timeline and onboarding process or whatever, the back-end customer support, whatever it's going to be. So this way they feel good. For example, for some of the custom training packages that we offer, a lot of times the leaders will want back-end support too. So they want, obviously, the core section we're going to have as well, but they want to make sure part of the implementation, we have other things too that's really going to help support them. As part of the process, we're making sure it's really clear, hey, here's a Slack channel, here's what's going to look like, here's how they can use it, here's other coaching calls, here's the other resources, here's an implementation plan, here's a step-by-step. So we're showing them literally a blueprint for success, which again helps remove the risk, increase likelihood for success in their eyes. But not just that, it actually helps them get results, which is also really important. So don't forget that even as part of your process, your demo, when you're showing them how amazing your solution is, show them what life looks like after they sign. This helps, again, remove their risk. But on top of that, if they need to go and justify the solutions to anybody else internally and you're not able to be in that room, there's a set of the tools to explain very clearly, this is exactly what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is how we're going to be successful. This is where our risk is going to be. It's very minimal. We got this. But on top of that, when you're actually proactive, this shows you're a true pro. You're not just trying to sell the transformation. You're a true professional who really understands from a business perspective, A to Z, and how to make whatever you sell a huge success for them. Strategy number 6, prepare an executive point of view. This is really for the very early on intro calls or calls with execs for the first time, in which you want to obviously do your homework, you want to prepare, you want to do your research, whether you use AI, you come with your own research, but you want to come to the table with a very clear executive point of view, which is essentially being able to identify, hey, what are probably the clear priorities for this organization, the problems are probably running into that point of view, and the issues are probably running into, and how your solution can help alleviate these problems and help them achieve their core objective. And the reason this is a really powerful strategy for helping de-risk the opportunity even early on is this shows, hey, this salesperson knows me. They understand my bid. They did their homework. This is not their first rodeo. When you're able to speak to a language and come to the table with a very clear hypothesis of how you help other people just like them or companies just like them solve the problem, they're like, okay, I feel better. And here's the reality. When you start thinking this way and you start to quote unquote de-risk the opportunity even early on for them, this increases your throughput for the deal because now they're like, okay, I get this person. They know my problems. They're pretty much nails in my hypothesis. I'm going to be open to them, open to being their executive sponsor and have them go down to other stakeholders and other teams and talk with them on my behalf. So this is a very simple strategy, but it just takes doing the homework up front, doing the research, the clear point of view, and leading with it in the executive conversation early on to help you reduce your risk drastically to get by and move the deal much faster. Strategy number 7, deep discovery. I watch a lot of Gong recordings. I see a lot of car reviews, and most people's discovery is frankly quite terrible. They do just enough to kind of try to check the box, whether you follow MedPick, BANT, whatever. They're almost like, got it. And there's no real depth to it. And the challenge is from there, jumping early into the demo, they're actually moving way too fast. And this actually will potentially increase their risk because then they're not sure, hey, does this person really understand me, understand my problems? And that's a very dangerous place to be. So you want to really internalize deep discovery. And it's not just with that single person you're talking to. This is with the end users, with department heads. These are people actually using the product, the service that you actually sell. And you want to do a true deep discovery. And you want to make sure you follow a really core framework that helps you cover all the core components. For example, I teach what's called a powerful framework, which we're covering 8 core components that really help you understand the full situation for all the stakeholders. So then this way, when you fully understand them, it reduces their risk of, okay, this person actually understands my business. Because when you do that, they're going to trust your solution far better. So you want to make sure you're doing the hard work up front before you get to your demo to make sure you're even removing the risk of understanding their business up front. So this way we make recommendations far easier and they're going to trust it much more likely. And that ties into strategy number 8, a tailored demo. The only way you can do a tailored demo is if you do a really deep discovery up front. And reality is most people do a very generic demo. They pull up the demo environment on there, they show general things, they're showing the same things every single time. And the reality is, yes, in some situations you might be showing kind of similar things, but what you would need to do, especially for a demo situations, when the more customized it feels to them, it removes their risk. If it feels too general, they're like, oh, this may not be for me, right? The reality is like most people think that things are just too general. They need something custom. So if you can make it feel like a custom tailored suit to them, the better it's going to be. And that means you only show what you need to show to solve their core problems. No more, no less. But but also in order of magnitude of the biggest problems they have. This again helps de-risk the decision that they're going to make. And the more tailored you can have it for them, the better it's going to be. I'll give you a really simple example. I remember hearing if you go to Thailand, you can get a pretty nice custom tailor suit. I heard that before. So I remember going to Thailand a couple of years ago. I went to Thailand. They showed me, oh, you can get this amazing custom suit. It's only a couple $100s. And I'm like, that sounds like too good to be true. I don't know. And I know true tailored suits are really usually like $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 plus. To get one for a couple $100s, actually high quality, I'm not really sure. What do they do first? They do the basic discovery, right, if you will, lack of a better term, really covering, walk me through. It was a very interactive discovery, picking fabrics, etc. And then what they actually did was they said, hey, just hang out here for 20 minutes and we'll be right back. And they went in the back, and what they did was they came out 20 minutes later, and they had all the measurements. They had pre-cut all the components of the jacket and the pants to fit me. And literally, they had me try it on. They started measuring some more, using like safety pins, pin even tighter so it fit even better. And their basic demo went really quick, like a custom demo. I'm like, oh wow, this looks actually pretty decent. I know it's like rough right now, but this looks pretty good. They said, all right, hold on. We're going to tailor this even more. Give us 20 more minutes. It will be right back. So we kind of show you what, and by the way, I hadn't paid for a single thing yet at this point. They go back into the back. 20 minutes later, they made even more adjustments. They were doing something, made it more tight, if you will. I put it back on, it fits even better. And I'm like, oh my God, the quality feels super good. Everything is very well done. I can already tell. This is crazy. I'm like, okay, this sounds really good. I'll pay the $200 and then they're going to bring this in 10 hours. I feel really good. It's custom tailored demo to me. I paid $200 and 10 hours later, they came to my hotel room. They had me try it on again. It's like a freaking dream. And I'm like, my God. And my point to you was, I was so sold on it, right? Even as part of the process, because that demo they did, which is me physically trying to think on, felt so tailored to me. Now, you might be saying, well, hey, Marcus, I can't do the same thing because, I sell XYZ software. That's not my point. Is more so is, how can you make sure what you are showing in the demo is tailored to solve the problem? So let's just say, for example, even if you have a standard demo deck that you're going to show them, you don't have to show them everything. Only show them what's most relevant to them. If it's a demo environment, don't go through all of those things. Only show them what's relevant to them. That's it. And if you're in a situation where you can make some customizations to the deck or customizations to even the demo environment, then make those changes in advance. So this way the demo feels like it's literally made for them. And when it feels like it's made for them, and again, reduces their risk of, okay, this is a wrong decision. But when they can see it's just like them, they're like, okay, their trust level with you increases, their risk level goes down, and their upside goes up. So that's really key. So it's very small detail, but wildly vital, because I see a lot of demos which most people just vomit everything on there, and they'll actually increase your risk versus de-risk the deal. Strategy number 9, active listening. When you're in a live sales situation, this can be a discovery call, demo call, any type of stakeholder call, you want to be actively listening to not just the words they're saying, but how they're saying it, their body language, shifts in tonality, literally everything. This is really, really important because this may help you identify potential concerns or objections that might be on their mind. And if you're not actively listening, you're not going to catch these things. So what happens is, in their mind, they had perceived some sort of risk and they keep thinking about it still. And that will grow over time, potentially, depending on what the question was or what was said at the time. I'll give you a simple example. One of my early roles, I remember I was meeting down with the CEO, and the prospect asked me, he said, hey, are you guys local? And I'm thinking like, okay, he wants to know, is our office close by? Can we provide service? Blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. We're local. We're actually like 20 minutes from your office right here. So like any time of the day you need our help, we're here. We have the best support, blah, blah. We're all local right here. I'm in Portland. Like the whole team's in Portland. We got you. Like it's amazing, blah, blah, blah. And at the time, the guy's like, okay, got it. And rookie Marcus did not realize at that point that there was something else in that guy's mind. So I'm like, cool, check marks, sold that guy, and that we're local. It's going to be awesome. That's a huge benefit for him. And later on, I ended up losing that deal. I was talking to my champion. I finally got a hold of him, not the CEO, but my champion. And I said, hey, listen, I think his name is Jimmy. I'm like, Jimmy, I thought like we had a really great conversation. You were on board, the CEO's on board. I'm just really confused. What happened? Why'd you end up going with XYZ competitor? He said, because you guys are local. I'm like, what do you mean? That's a good thing. You guys are local, etc. He's, well, we actually have 5 other operations around the U.S. and we're actually going to expand about 2 more other operations in other parts of the U.S. And we end up partnering with XYZ competitor because they actually have a nationwide presence. And I felt like I got punched in the gut because we were also a nationwide company. But because I wasn't actively listening, I didn't realize the question he was asking, his response was actually a risk for him. And he saw it as risky to go with us because we would not be able to satisfy his current needs and future needs as part of it. And I share that with you because it's a really easy mistake to fall for, because sometimes we get happy in these conversations and we hear what we want to hear versus hear what the prospect is actually saying. So this is a strategy. You want to focus on making sure you're 100% present. You're listening to them. You're hearing what they're saying, how they're saying, but you're also visually looking at them so you can see any shifts in their body language and how they're actually answering the question, because it may show you other risk factors that you might potentially be missing. And again, this applies to any part of the sales process. So active listening is a key strategy to help you de-risk deals. Then you can actually address it accordingly if you identify anything that might be top of mind for them. Strategy number 10, world-class recap emails. Okay, you might be like, that sounds stupid, right? But hear me out. Here's why this is really important. What I mean by this is after you have a meeting with your stakeholders, you want to send a recap highlighting what the key next steps are, things you uncovered in there, and this way they're on the same page with you as well. And the reason this is really important is this shows you were listening. Now, if you watch any of my other videos, that means even throughout when you're running discovery, you should be recapping back to me. If I understand you're right, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, you're saying this and this. Is that right? Yes, cool. Hey, if I understand, it sounds because your team has a 18% win rate, you want to get your team to 30% win rate. And because of that, by them not being at 30%, it's actually costing your team $2 million a month in lost revenue. Does that sound right to you? Got it. And that actually impacts your personal bonus on how you earn as a sales VP. Is that correct? Yes. Got it. So that's recapping. You do it there, but on top of that, after your meeting is done, you want to send a recap email highlighting the key things as well. And this, again, helps take all of the stuff that's in their mind and make it very simple and concise and easy to understand. And here's a really simple framework. It doesn't have to be crazy, right? Literally, sometimes it can be recap and next steps. It can be as simple as that. It can be literally, hi, Nate, great chatting today. Here are the next steps based on what we discussed. Whatever action items are next. So you'll do this, I'll do this. We'll have a meeting on this day to discuss whatever, right? So I can put that first. Then next, let's say, for example, if it's a discovery call, we uncovered all their core problems, right? Then on my list, say, hey, based on our conversation, here are the core challenges XYZ companies run into. Challenge number 1, challenge number 2, challenge number 3. And then what I'll usually do is I'll bolt on the initiatives. So I'll say, hey, because of that, it's impacting XYZ initiatives in this way. Anything I missed? Thanks so much. And that's literally that simple recap. By showing that after that meeting, this helps them see, number 1, this guy's a pro, but number 2, this guy actually paid attention. He actually gets my business and gets them more excited for the next steps. These are little detailed, but imagine doing that in every single meeting that you have with these different stakeholders. This helps them realize you know what you're doing, which helps reduce their risk, increase potential upside. Strategy number 11. Relatable stories and social proof. I want you to think about some of your favorite movies or TV shows. Chances are pretty good. The reason you like them is you have some sort of resonance with the storyline or maybe even some of the characters in the show, right? So for instance, one of my favorite shows is Breaking Bad. If you ever watched Breaking Bad, phenomenal series. I really like that character of Walt, a bit of an underdog, built a criminal empire, which is not necessarily something you want to aspire to, but I felt it very relatable where it's, man, those days where you feel like things are just going wrong, nothing going right in your life, and you're the underdog and people are getting above you. I think we've all felt that way. I have felt that way personally. So I really just connected with that and it seems that was cool. And the reason I bring this point up is we like things are relatable to us, right? And when you tie us back into a sales situation, the stories you're sharing about different customers and prospects and case studies, are they relatable to them? Can they see themselves in that shoes of that customer who had success with what you sell? And this is really important because unfortunately I've seen situations where reps are using stories or social proof or big logos to talk about, and it doesn't resonate well with who they're selling to. For instance, sometimes let's give me a second, you're meeting with a SMB or mid-market company, and the logos get dropped are like Fortune 50 companies. And they're not there yet, right? Maybe they don't even aspire to be there, but they're just not resonating with that type of story, right? So what you want to think through is as you're sharing stories and you're sharing social logos on any of your decks or even as part of your conversation or part of your demo, whatever, are they relatable? can they see themselves in that situation? When they can see themselves as that person who got the incredible benefit and result that you're talking about, it reduces their risk again, increases their upside because like, this is just like me. This is actually why we post so many testimonials and case studies of videos and screenshots on all our social media. It's quite common. People literally message us and book calls with us because they say, wow, hey, we watched this video where, Dustin and his team, 100% of the team hit their number at a big company. Hey, we're also a big company and our team is hitting 40% quota across the board. We saw what you did. We saw ourselves in Dustin's shoes. Can you show us what you did with him and can you help us do the same thing? Because again, they can see themselves in that situation. This reduces their risk, increases their upside. If you can't tell by now, that's the theme of every single one of these things. How can we reduce the perceived risk, increase their upside? And relatable stories, relatable logos, social proof is a really powerful way to do that. So what that means next is before you jump into a sales call with any kind of prospect and you have stories you want to share, before you go, just write down some examples of relatable stories in that situation. If you even just do that in advance, this prepares you for when you're on your call. If you want to tell a story, you can pull right there and start sharing that exact example, which makes them feel like, wow, this guy really gets me. Strategy number 12, the what we learned slide. Now, if you're not familiar with this is just a really simple slide or even a Google Doc that has just bullet points showing what you've learned so far in the process. And this is like wildly underrated. It sounds so simple, but by literally pulling up what you have uncovered in the last call, they see it now, they're like, okay, this person gets me. So if you cannot bolt on some of these strategies together, imagine you have a great discovery call, you send an incredible world-class recap email, like I mentioned, they're like, okay, that's impressive. This guy actually did that first off. And by the way, when you send a recap email, do it like after the call. Don't wait like 4 days. Do it like after the call because it's still top of mind, right? And now you're taking those similar bullet points and now you put it on a slide and you say, hey, before we dive into it, let's just make sure we're all on the same page. Let's dial a little bit. Based on what we covered last week or last call, you have these challenge 1, 2, and 3. And it's linked to list impact. Does that sound about right? Cool. Anything else you want to add to that? So again, this is power. And again, imagine if you do it throughout all the parts of the sales process. Each time you do it, this is showing them you're a true professional, that you truly understand their business. And the best part is this takes you a minute to do before a call, and it makes such a big difference in how they actually perceive you as well. But have a simple visual reminder like, hey, this guy or gal is actually a pro, and they know my business. Strategy number 13, limit the options. Now, this is getting closer when you actually provide a proposal for them, you give them different options. And what you don't want to do is say, hey, listen, we have 30 things we can give to you, or 10 things we can give to you. That's too much. Have you ever been to like Cheesecake Factory in the US? Have you ever seen their menu? The thing is like a thick book and you have, I don't know how, there's like dozens of options. I go there, I can't even decide what I want because there's just too many options, right? Versus the smart restaurants, they really limit it down. And when you have limited options, it makes it easier for them to choose. And I'll give you a really simple example. We have this great restaurant in Portland, Oregon. It's called Andina's Peruvian Restaurant. We've been going for years. And I remember when we first started going there, they had a pretty robust menu. And I remember my first time eating Peruvian food, I really didn't know what to choose. So what did I do? I literally went to, I think Google reviews or Yelp, started looking like the most common ones. I'm like, I'll just pick that, right? And it worked out pretty well. There was just too many options. I really just didn't know how to decide. So I needed someone to guide me, which is basically Google reviews or Yelp at the time. Now, fast forward to recently, we went there for Valentine's Day and we took a look at the menu. They had completely simplified it down. They went from like multiple pages to literally a front and back of a card. And from entrees, they had 5 options. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, at first I was like, I don't know if I like this. And I'm like, actually, these are probably the 5 most popular ones, and I actually like this one right here. So it made it much easier, right? So it made it easier for me to decide as a result. Now, bring us back to your B2B sales call, rather, you're having, and you're going over different options. If you have too many, they get very overwhelmed, and they get into, send me more information, let me think about it, and that makes it really hard. The easy solve, literally limit it down. Maybe you have 3 or less options. Just by simply doing that, it reduces that decision fatigue that they might have to have. Because again, if there's too many options, now they're like, how should I pick? Let me talk to other stakeholders. It becomes like a whole thing versus, okay, here are the 3 options. This is what we have. And this makes it very clear. I'll give you a really simple example. Even with my own business, and we have really 3 core offers, okay, for teams. We have either an enablement offer where we basically provide them the LMS and the learning path, and they basically a team will implement themselves. We have just pure training sessions where I do sessions with the teams. And then we have a custom model. We build something custom for them. Now, It's three general ones, as I'm saying as a whole. With the custom one, though, it can spin out to literally dozens of different examples. And that is if I was to say, hey, listen, like, we actually have 15 different packages we can offer to you, so which one do you want? Most buyers are going to be like, oh my God, that's going to be too much, right? So what I actually do is, even early in the first discovery, just exceed them a little bit. Say, hey, just high level, we have 3 core packages, like block 1, 2, and 3. Like what I'm thinking is going to make most sense based on our conversation today is we put together something custom for you. And that's what I'm going to recommend. I'll probably be able to build 2 custom packages. That's probably best for you. Does that sound about fair? They're like, yeah, that sounds great. So then from there, I know I can just create 2 custom options for them. And it's all I need to do, right? But I also know as a card in my back pocket, if I'm in the next conversation and maybe they want other things as well, we can make some tweaks and I can create other things too. And I share that with you because you might have many options to sell somebody, but you don't want to say we could do it all, right? You want to make it very simple for them and easy to decide. And this is actually why if you look at many software sites with the different packages, most of them will generally have just 3 options. That's it. Because they had 10 options, you'd be like, know what to pick. It'd be very overwhelming. So it's a very simple solve we apply right after this video. Strategy number 14, make a recommendation. This is a very simple thing, but unfortunately, I've seen many demos where, let's just say, for example, there's even 3 options. I've seen the AE say, hey, here's my 3 options, option 1, 2, and 3. What do you think? In the process, I'm supposed to say, oh, I think it's a lot. Let me think it through. Let me get back to you, right? Remember, if you've done a good job, if you've done these other strategies I've shared with you so far, you should be perceived as a trusted advisor. This gives you the opportunity to make a recommendation. So it's literally as simple as saying something like, hey, here's option 1, 2, and 3. Based on what you told me, here's why I recommend option number 2, and here's why. By simply doing that, you are helping them block out the other thing, focus on a single thing, and this helps reduce that decision fatigue and reduce their risk level. This is really powerful, especially if you're working with an indecisive buyer. And if you ever shop on Amazon, you see this in real time every single time you're on Amazon. You go on the app and it shows you, look up anything. Let's say, for example, you want to buy soles for your shoes. They shows you hundreds of examples. But then what do they have also on certain ones? Bestseller, recommended. But it makes it really clear which ones are guiding you towards. And what they're doing is they're reducing your decision fatigue. That's what they're doing. So you want to do the same thing with your product by just simply making a recommendation. So literally, just imagine this is what you do after this video. You present your options and say, all right, cool. Based on what you told me, here's what I recommend. Option X. Here's why. What do you think? That's it. That's simple. Strategy number 15, consistent communication. Here is the sad reality. Is I've worked with a lot of AEs over the years. I have bought many products, many pieces of software, many things. Unfortunately, most salespeople have very poor follow-up, very poor response times. When asked questions or they don't get back to you on a certain time, it's actually wildly crazy on how poor acumen some people have. Now, this is not my point to dog on these AEs, because this means this is an opportunity. And what happens is when you are inconsistent with being responsive and getting back to your customer in a timely manner, or you're inconsistent with even how you communicate, it increases their risk level. Are they going to mess up working with me? Are they going to mess up the order? Are they going to mess up what it's going to be? And that increases their risk level with you and decreases your chances of actually moving them forward. So what you don't want to do is you don't want that to be a reason they don't move forward with you. All right. So what does that actually mean? That means literally you are consistent with communicating back and responsive to them. So if they call you today, you don't wait like a week to call them back. You call them within 24 hours. If they email you a question, depending on what the question is, don't wait 3 days to email them back. Email them back that same day or pick up the phone and call them. And these little things, it seems crazy, but when you actually are really consistent, you are really reliable, they are seeing you now as a trusted advisor. They're seeing you as a true professional. And when you do that consistently, you will win more deals. By the way, this applies across the board. Let's say, for example, the deal stalls out a little bit. Instead of just disappearing, you put them into a nurture sequence, you follow up periodically, you nurture them with value. Just by being consistent on communication, you'll see you will win deals because of that. I've won deals years after because of the consistency in the communication and the responsiveness. And I literally won deals when they say, listen, we try to get a hold of our current vendor or our competitor X, and it would just take forever to get back to us. And it's crazy to me that would happen. If that's you, first off, start getting consistent. That might mean getting more organized, managing your emails better, managing your phone calls and texts better. That could be you. And you want to be consistent with it. That's really it. If you just do it consistently, you will decrease your risk level of them perceiving you as someone who's not reliable, and it increases the chances of actually them seeing you as a trusted advisor instead. So there you have it. 15 specific strategies to overcome the no decision problem in your sales process. Now, here's the truth. You can either spend the next 5 to 10 years figuring this out through painful trial and error, which, I'm sure you probably will eventually figure it out. It just depends on how long it'll take to actually get to the point where you're consistent with all of these things. Or you can implement a proven system that's already working for literally hundreds of sales professionals across multiple industries. For account executives out there, I package all 15 of these strategies and dozens more into our complete Sales Accelerator X program. If you're serious about breaking through the no decision barrier and want to see exactly how our clients are getting results on average in 13.44 days, click the link below to book a call with our team. But only if you're serious about results. Because like I mentioned, there's no magic pill. It requires you showing up consistently to actually get results. So that's why we're very selective about who we allow into that program. Because remember, in today's time, the difference between average performers and top performers is not talent. It's having proven systems that consistently deliver results. And if you're a sales leader who wants to get their team to break through the same barrier, and we'll look at team programs as well, you'll see there's a different link below for team programs. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next video.